They say construction is a man's world. What they don't tell you is that the man who keeps that world from collapsing is usually a woman with a clipboard and a refusal to take shortcuts. My name is Margaret Chen, 47 years old, safety director at Harmon Belk Development for 15 years. I've walked more job sites than most foremen have had hot dinners. I've pulled grown men out of trenches that were about to cave in. I've shut down cranes in windstorms while project managers screamed about deadlines. I've stared down OSHA inspectors and union reps and insurance adjusters and walked away clean every single time. Not because I'm lucky, because I'm good, because I know every regulation in the book and about 50 that aren't written down anywhere. The kind you only learn from watching a man lose 3 fingers to a table saw because someone thought safety glasses were optional. 15 years of 6 a.m. site walks and midnight permit reviews. 15 years of being the person everyone called when something went wrong, and the person everyone forgot when things went right. 15 years of building something that actually mattered. A safety record so clean you could eat off it. 0 fatalities. 3 lost time injuries, all minor. An insurance premium so low that the underwriters sent us a fruit basket every Christmas. That was my legacy. That was my life. And then Kevin Harmon Jr. showed up, the owner's son, 32 years old, MBA from some school that taught him to see workers as line items and safety protocols as suggestions. Hair so gelled it could deflect a falling wrench. Smile so white it probably glowed in the dark. He rolled onto the Riverside Tower site in a Tesla that cost more than my annual salary, stepped out in loafers that had never touched mud, and announced that he was the new Chief Operations Officer, effective immediately. Daddy had decided it was time for Junior to learn the family business, and Junior had decided, based on what I can only assume was a 3-minute YouTube video about lean management, that Harmon Belk was bloated with redundancies. He used that word a lot. Redundancies. Like safety was something you could streamline, like 15 years of institutional knowledge was dead weight you could scrape off the hull. I watched him tour the site that first day, nodding at everything the project manager said, asking questions that made it clear he didn't know the difference between rebar and reinforcing mesh. He pointed at a scaffolding rig and asked why we needed so many levels, pointed at the decontamination station and called it excessive, pointed at my safety briefing board and said, "Do people actually read this stuff?" I wanted to tell him that yes, people read it because I made them read it, because the alternative was people not going home to their families. But I kept my mouth shut. 15 years teaches you when to fight and when to wait. I thought I could wait him out. I thought Daddy would realize Junior was in over his head and pull him back to some corner office where he could play with spreadsheets and leave the real work to people who understood it. I was wrong. Oh, quick thing before we go any further. If you're listening to this and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you doing? Seriously, 90% of you are out here enjoying the chaos without contributing. One tap, that's all it takes. Help the channel grow so we can keep bringing you these stories of corporate karma. Trust me, this one's just getting started. Now back to Junior's reign of terror. The first week, Kevin called a meeting in the construction trailer. Everyone crammed in like sardines, dust on our boots, sweat on our foreheads, while he stood in front of a projector screen looking like he was about to pitch a startup to venture capitalists. Operational efficiency, he said, clicking through slides filled with pie charts and buzzwords. That's our focus going forward. We're going to trim the fat, eliminate process redundancies, make this operation lean and mean. He clicked to a slide titled Personnel Realignment. My name was on it, not crossed out, not highlighted, just there, under a bullet point that said Legacy Oversight Consolidation. I felt the room shift, felt eyes slide toward me and then away, the way people do when they smell blood but don't want to get any on their shoes. Kevin kept talking. Something about modernizing compliance and bringing safety into the 21st century. He mentioned an app that workers could use to report hazards from their phones. Self-directed safety culture, he called it, like you could crowdsource not dying. After the meeting, I caught him outside the trailer. "Mr. Harmon," I said, keeping my voice level, "can we talk about the realignment?" He looked at me the way you look at furniture you're thinking about replacing. "Margaret, right? The safety lady? 15 years. Safety lady. I've been with the company since before this site was permitted," I said. "I know, that's kind of the issue." He pulled out his phone, started scrolling while he talked. "Look, I'm sure you were great back in the day, but we need fresh perspective, new blood, people who understand that safety doesn't have to be a bottleneck." "Safety isn't a bottleneck," I said. "It's the foundation." He smiled, that white smile. "See, that's exactly what I mean. Old thinking. We're going to disrupt the safety paradigm, make it proactive instead of reactive. I wanted to tell him that my entire job was proactive, that every regulation I enforced, every protocol I established, every inspection I conducted was designed to prevent problems before they happened. But he was already walking away, thumbs dancing across his phone screen, probably texting someone about how he'd handled the dinosaur. I stood there in the mud, watching him pick his way toward his Tesla, and I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, something patient, something that had been building for 15 years of being overlooked and undervalued, and was finally starting to crystallize into something sharp. He didn't know what he was holding. He didn't know what I was holding. And that was going to be his education. The axe fell on a Tuesday. Not in private, not in a meeting room with HR present and a severance package on the table. No, Kevin Harmon Jr. did it at the morning safety briefing, my safety briefing, the one I'd conducted every single day for 15 years at 6:30 a.m. sharp. The crew was gathered in the staging area, about 40 men and women in hard hats and high-vis vests, coffee steam rising in the early morning chill. I was going over the day's hazard assessments, pointing out the crane swing radius and reminding everyone about the trenching work on the east side. Standard stuff, life-saving stuff. Then Kevin's Tesla rolled up. He got out, walked straight through the crowd like he was parting the Red Sea, and stepped up onto the small platform where I was standing. Didn't wait for me to finish. Didn't even acknowledge that I was mid-sentence. Just grabbed the microphone from my hand and said, "Good morning, everyone. Quick announcement." I stood there, hand still raised where the microphone used to be, 40 pairs of eyes staring. "As part of our operational restructuring," Kevin said, voice echoing off the half-built concrete walls, "we're making some changes to site leadership. Effective immediately, Margaret Chen is no longer safety director. We thank her for her service." He said it like that. Her service, like I'd been volunteering at a soup kitchen. "We're bringing in a new approach," he continued, "a modern safety framework that empowers you, the workers, to take ownership of your own protection. No more nanny state oversight." Someone in the back coughed. Might have been a laugh, might have been choking on the audacity. Kevin turned to me, still holding my microphone, and extended his other hand. "Keys, please." I stared at him. "The site keys," he said, louder now, playing to the crowd. "Master access. We'll need those back." The keys hung on my belt, same ring I'd carried since my first week. Master keys to every gate, every lockout station, every confined space entry point. Keys that only worked because my name was attached to the permits they represented. But he didn't know that. He saw metal on a ring. He didn't see the 15 years of authorization woven into them. I unclipped the ring, held it up so everyone could see. "Good luck," I said, and I meant it. Not sarcastically, not bitterly. I meant it the way you tell someone good luck before they jump out of a plane without checking their parachute. I walked off that site with my head high. Didn't look back. Didn't say goodbye to the crew, though I'd trained half of them myself. Didn't stop at the trailer to collect my things. Just walked past the equipment yard, past the porta-johns, past the sign that said Harmon Belk Development, Building Tomorrow Today. Got in my truck, sat there for a full minute, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the rearview mirror. In the reflection, I could see Kevin already walking away, phone out, probably posting about his bold leadership move. My phone buzzed. Text from Rosa in HR. "Margaret, I'm so sorry. I didn't know until this morning. Can I do anything?" I typed back, "Did anyone process my termination paperwork?" Rosa, "What paperwork?" I almost smiled, because that was the thing about Kevin Harmon Jr. He'd fired me publicly, dramatically, in front of 40 witnesses, but he hadn't done any of the actual work of firing someone. No exit interview, no documentation, no formal notification to the licensing boards, no transfer of safety certifications. He'd just taken my keys and announced I was gone, like that was all it took to remove a safety director, like my authority was a set of physical objects he could confiscate. But my authority wasn't in those keys. It was in databases, state registries, federal systems, insurance policies. Every permit on that site had my name on it. Every safety certification, every hazardous materials authorization, every crane operation license. My signature was the thread holding the whole tapestry together, and Kevin had just yanked me out without bothering to check what was attached. I started my truck, pulled out of the lot, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't worry about what might go wrong on the Riverside Tower site. That wasn't my job anymore. Now it was Kevin's, and Kevin had no idea what he was holding, or rather, what he'd just dropped. The first crack appeared before I even got home. My phone rang while I was still on the highway. Caller ID said it was Manny Reyes, our crane operator. 23 years in the trade, hands steadier than a surgeon's, one of the few people on that site who understood what I actually did. "Mags," he said, voice tight, "what the hell just happened?" "I got streamlined," I said. "Kevin's modernizing. He's an idiot. Careful, he's your boss now." "He's not my anything. Listen, the crane's down." I nearly swerved into the next lane. "What do you mean, down?" "I mean the operating permit expired at midnight. Today was renewal day. You always handled that recertification. I assumed you'd done it yesterday." I had, or rather, I'd prepared it. The paperwork was sitting on my desk in the trailer, ready for my signature and submission to the state licensing board, a signature that now belonged to no one, because Kevin had terminated me before the workday even started. "The permit renewal needs a certified safety officer's authorization," I said slowly. "That's me. Was me. So what happens now?" "Now the crane sits. Legally, you can't operate without current certification." Silence on the line. Then, "The pour is scheduled for Thursday. 30 trucks of concrete. If we don't have the crane—" "I know. Mags, this is going to cost—" "I know." I heard him exhale, heard the wind whistling through the phone, the sounds of a job site that was about to grind to a very expensive halt. "Did you tell Kevin?" I asked. "He's not answering his phone. His assistant says he's in a strategy session." Of course he was. "There's nothing I can do, Manny. I don't work there anymore. Technically, I never even officially stopped working there, which is going to make this even messier." "What do you mean?" "I mean Kevin fired me without paperwork. I'm still listed as the safety officer of record on every permit, every license, every authorization, but I'm also terminated. So any renewal I try to submit would be fraudulent, and any renewal someone else tries to submit would be unauthorized. That's insane. That's bureaucracy, and Kevin just walked into it without a map." I pulled into my driveway, sat there with the engine running. "I'm sorry, Manny, I wish I could help." "Yeah," he said quietly. "Me too." I hung up, went inside, made coffee, and then I did something I hadn't done in 15 years. I opened my laptop and started checking job listings, because whatever happened next at Riverside Tower, it wasn't my problem anymore. At least, that's what I told myself, but the phone kept buzzing, text after text, missed call after missed call, each one a small tremor, a preview of the earthquake to come. The earthquake hit at 4:47 p.m. I was sitting on my back porch, watching a squirrel try to figure out how to defeat my bird feeder, when my phone lit up with a text from someone I didn't expect. Daniel Chen. No relation, despite the shared name. He was the chief inspector for the regional OSHA office. We'd known each other for 12 years, shared war stories at safety conferences. He respected me. I respected him. He'd never once given Harmon Belk a surprise inspection because he'd never needed to. My record spoke for itself. His text was 3 words: "Check your email." I went inside, opened my laptop. There it was, an automated notification from the State Construction Licensing Database. Alert: Riverside Tower Development. Multiple permit authorization anomalies detected. Site status changed to pending review. On-site operations may be subject to temporary suspension pending clarification. Multiple permit authorization anomalies. That was bureaucrat speak for, we have no idea who's in charge, and we're not letting anyone do anything until we figure it out. I scrolled down. The system had flagged 7 separate permits, all of which listed me as the authorized safety officer, crane operation, confined space entry, hazardous materials handling, fall protection program, excavation and trenching, fire safety, and the big one, the master site safety plan that every other permit depended on. All of them showed my name. All of them showed my credentials, and all of them now showed a status of authorization pending, officer of record employment, status unverified. Kevin had fired me, but he hadn't told anyone who mattered. Not the state, not OSHA, not the insurance company, not the county. He'd just taken my keys and assumed that was the whole job. Now the entire site was in regulatory limbo. They couldn't renew anything because I was listed as terminated. They couldn't transfer anything because there was no authorized replacement. And they couldn't operate under expired permits without risking massive fines. Or worse. My phone rang. "Daniel Chen." "Margaret," he said, and his voice had that careful neutrality that told me this was partly personal and mostly official. "I need to ask you something. Go ahead. Are you still employed at Harmon Belk Development?" "I was terminated this morning. Formally, publicly, in front of the entire crew. But formally, documentation, HR processing? No, he just took my keys and told everyone I was done." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "That's what I was afraid of. We received a complaint this afternoon. Anonymous. claimed there were safety violations at the Riverside Tower site. Normally, I'd file it and schedule a routine follow-up, but when I pulled the permit records, I found something unusual. Let me guess. My name everywhere and no replacement listed. Your name everywhere, and a termination flag in the employment database that doesn't match the licensing records. The system thinks you're both employed and not employed. It's triggered an automatic hold, meaning until this gets sorted out, the site is non-operational. No work can proceed. Any activity would be considered unauthorized. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling. How long to sort it out? Depends. If they can find a qualified replacement and submit proper transfer documentation, maybe a week. If they try to fight it or cut corners, could be a month, could be longer. And if they just ignore it, then I show up tomorrow with a stop work order, and we start talking about criminal liability. I thought about Kevin, about his confidence, his certainty that everything could be streamlined and optimized and disrupted. Daniel, I said, I want you to know I didn't cause this. I know, but Margaret, I have to ask, did you see it coming? I thought about it, really thought about it. Yes, I said finally, I think part of me did. And you didn't try to stop it? I tried to do my job. He wouldn't let me. There's only so much you can do when someone's determined to drive off a cliff. Daniel sighed. Fair enough. I'll need a statement from you, just to clarify the chain of events. Can you come in tomorrow? I'll be there at 9. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my house and let it sink in. Kevin had wanted to modernize, to streamline, to eliminate redundancies, and in doing so, he'd eliminated the one person who knew which walls were load-bearing. Now the whole structure was starting to shake, and I hadn't lifted a finger. I didn't need to. The system was doing exactly what it was designed to do, protecting itself from people who didn't understand what they were holding. By Thursday morning, the news had spread through the construction industry like wildfire through dry brush. Riverside Tower was shut down, not damaged, not behind schedule, shut down. The OSHA stop work order was posted at every entrance by 7 a.m. Big yellow signs with black letters, the kind that make insurance adjusters weep into their spreadsheets. I knew because Manny sent me a photo. The crane sat motionless against the gray sky, its arm frozen mid-swing like a mechanical dinosaur caught in amber. Below it, 30 concrete trucks had been turned away the day before. 30 trucks, at $1,500 each in cancellation fees, plus the cost of rescheduling, plus the cost of the cure window for the concrete that was supposed to be poured, plus the cost of every subcontractor who was now sitting idle, burning through per diem, while they waited for someone to figure out what the hell was happening. My phone had been ringing off the hook since dawn. Reporters, lawyers, former colleagues wanting to know if the rumors were true. I let them all go to voicemail, except one, Rosa from HR. She called me at 8:15, and her voice sounded like she'd been crying. Margaret, I need your help. I can't help you, Rosa. I don't work there anymore. I know. But Kevin is. He's blaming everyone. He's saying you sabotaged the permits, that you deliberately let things expire. Everything was current until the day he fired me. The renewal paperwork was on my desk. He never even looked at it. I know, I found it. But he's telling the board you were negligent, that this is your fault. I felt something hot flicker in my chest. Not surprise. I'd expected this. Men like Kevin always found someone else to blame. Rosa, I said, can you do me a favor? Anything. Check my employment file. Tell me what's in it. I heard her typing. A long pause. Margaret, there's nothing. What do you mean, nothing? I mean there's no termination record, no exit interview, no severance documentation. According to our system, you're still employed. I laughed, actually laughed. So I was fired in front of 40 witnesses, but officially I still work there. That's what it looks like. Kevin never submitted the paperwork. He just announced it, which means any statement I make to OSHA about being terminated is technically unverified. I don't know what that means legally. It means Kevin created a Schrodinger's employee. I'm both employed and unemployed until someone opens the box. And until they do, no one has authority to do anything. Rosa was silent. Thank you, Rosa, I said. This helps. Helps what? Helps me understand just how deep he's buried himself. I hung up and looked at the clock. 8:30. Meeting with Daniel Chen in 30 minutes. Time to go make a statement. Time to put everything on the record. And time to let the dominoes fall exactly where Kevin had stacked them. The OSHA office smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucracy. Daniel met me in the lobby, shook my hand like we were at a funeral, and led me back to a conference room with windows that hadn't been cleaned since the Bush administration. Both of them. Thanks for coming in, he said. Before we start the official statement, I need to show you something. He slid a folder across the table. Inside was a printout of the Riverside Tower permit database, but with new entries highlighted in yellow. Your employer, or former employer, or whatever they are, submitted an emergency transfer request last night at 11 p.m. They're trying to designate a new safety officer of record. I looked at the name, blinked, looked again. Tyler Harmon, Kevin's cousin, 24 years old, 2 years out of school, currently listed as a project coordinator. He has no safety certifications. No, he's never conducted a site inspection in his life. No, he can't even legally sign a confined space entry permit. Also no, I pushed the folder back. They're trying to paper over the problem with another unqualified Harmon. Daniel nodded. And it's not going to work. The system already rejected it. You need OSHA 30 at minimum, plus state-specific construction safety certification, plus 2 years of documented field experience. Tyler has none of those. So what happens now? Now we wait. They have 72 hours to designate a qualified replacement or submit a remediation plan. If they don't, we escalate to formal enforcement action, and the site stays shut down. The site stays shut down. I sat back, thought about all those workers, all those subcontractors, all those families depending on paychecks that were now frozen because Kevin Harmon Jr. had decided I was dead weight. Daniel, I said, I want to make something clear for the record. I didn't do this. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't let permits expire out of spite. Everything was current and maintained until the moment I was removed. I know, and I'm not going to fix it for them. Not because I'm bitter, but because I legally can't. I was terminated. I have no authority. Any action I take now would be fraudulent. Daniel nodded slowly. Margaret, off the record, can I ask you something? Go ahead. In your professional opinion, how long can they go on like this? I considered it. The permits, the insurance, the vendor contracts, the union agreements, the county inspections. All of it was tied to my credentials, my signatures, my 15 years of institutional knowledge. A week, I said. Maybe 2. After that, the insurance company will pull coverage. Once that happens, the bonding company will follow. Once that happens, the bank will call the construction loan. And once that happens, the whole project collapses. All because of one termination. All because of one termination done wrong. Daniel shook his head. I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've never seen anything like it. That's because most people understand that safety isn't a department. It's the immune system. You don't fire the immune system and expect the body to keep functioning. He stood up. Let's get your statement on record. And Margaret, for what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened to you. Don't be sorry, I said. Be watchful, because this is just the beginning. The beginning. That word echoed in my head as I drove home. Because he was right. This was just the beginning. The crane was down. The permits were frozen. The insurance was shaky. But Kevin still didn't understand. He still thought this was a paperwork problem, a bureaucratic hiccup, something he could fix with the right phone call, the right threat, the right application of Harmon family influence. He didn't understand that he'd broken something fundamental, something that couldn't be fixed with money or connections, something that would keep breaking, day after day, system after system, until there was nothing left but rubble and lawsuits. And me, I was going to be right here, watching, waiting, not lifting a finger, because I didn't need to. Kevin had already lit the fuse. All I had to do was stay out of the blast radius. The weekend brought silence. Not peace. Silence. The kind that settles over a battlefield before the next wave. I spent Saturday cleaning my garage, organizing tools I hadn't touched in years, found an old hard hat buried under some boxes. My first one. The company had given it to me during my orientation, back when Harmon Belk was a regional outfit with 3 job sites and a dream. I held it up to the light, scratched, dented, faded, but still solid, still doing its job. I put it on a shelf where I could see it, a reminder. Sunday morning, I woke up to my phone exploding. Not calls this time. News alerts. I'd set up a Google alert for Harmon Belk months ago, back when rumors of restructuring first started circulating. Mostly it just pinged me press releases and trade journal mentions, but today it pinged me something different. Local construction project halted amid safety certification chaos. The story was from a business news site, not a major outlet, but big enough to matter. It detailed the OSHA stop work order, the permit anomalies, the failed attempt to designate an unqualified replacement, and there, buried in paragraph 7, was my name. Margaret Chen, the former safety director who was publicly terminated last week, could not be reached for comment. Sources close to the company suggest her abrupt departure may have triggered the regulatory failures, now paralyzing the $140 million project. Sources close to the company. That was Kevin, or Kevin's people, trying to spin this, trying to make it my fault. I put down the phone and made breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee, normal things, calm things. Because anger was a luxury I couldn't afford. Not yet. Not until I knew exactly how this was going to play out. At noon, Rosa called again. "It's worse than we thought," she said. "How much worse?" "The insurance company sent a letter. They're conducting an emergency review of our coverage. If we can't demonstrate continuous safety oversight, they're threatening to void the policy." "When?" "End of the week. Margaret, if we lose insurance, we can't operate. Even if OSHA clears us, we can't operate without coverage." "I know." Kevin's father flew in from Palm Beach. He's in the building right now. I've never seen him look so angry. "Angry at who?" Rosa hesitated. "Everyone. Kevin mostly. But also you." "Me?" "He thinks you should have warned them, should have made sure the transition was handled properly." I laughed. Short, sharp. "Rosa, I was fired in front of 40 people while I was conducting a safety briefing. What transition was I supposed to handle?" "I know. I told him that. He didn't want to hear it. He's looking for someone to blame who isn't his son." "Yes. And I'm convenient." "Yes." I sipped my coffee. "Let him blame me. It doesn't change the facts. The facts are in federal databases and state registries. The facts don't care about blame." Rosa was quiet for a long moment. "Margaret, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Did you know this would happen?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. The honest answer was complicated. I'd known Kevin was dangerous. Known he didn't understand what he was handling. Known that if he removed me without proper transition, bad things would follow. But had I known it would be this bad, this fast, this complete, I knew something would happen. I said finally. "I didn't know it would be an avalanche." "But you didn't stop it." "I couldn't stop it. He wouldn't let me." "Rosa, you can't protect people who won't let you protect them. At some point, you have to step back and let gravity do its job." She sighed. "I just wish it hadn't come to this." "Me too." After she hung up, I sat with that feeling for a while. The wish, the regret, because part of me did wish things had been different. Part of me wished Kevin had been smart enough to listen, smart enough to understand that safety wasn't a cost center to be eliminated. But he wasn't, and wishes don't build buildings. They don't save lives. They don't keep cranes from falling on workers. Only competence does that. Only experience. Only the boring, unglamorous, invisible work of someone who knows where the danger lives. Kevin had fired that person, and now he was learning what happened when the danger wasn't watched anymore. I finished my coffee, washed my dishes, and went back to cleaning the garage, because whatever happened next, it was going to happen with or without me, and I had already done everything I could. Monday morning brought the lawyers. Not just any lawyers, big, firm lawyers, the kind with corner offices and hourly rates that could fund a small country. They showed up at my door at 7 a.m., 2 of them, one man and one woman, both wearing suits that cost more than my car. "Miss Chen," the woman spoke. She had the carefully neutral face of someone trained to deliver bad news without revealing how much she enjoyed it. "We're here on behalf of Harmon Belk Development. We'd like to discuss the current situation." I leaned against my doorframe. "You mean the situation where your client fired me without proper documentation and is now blaming me for the consequences? We'd like to offer you an opportunity to resolve this amicably." "I'm not aware of anything that needs resolving. I was terminated. I no longer have any role or responsibility." The man spoke up, smoother than the woman, more practiced. "Ms. Chen, we understand there may be some confusion about the circumstances of your departure. We're prepared to offer a substantial severance package in exchange for your assistance with the regulatory situation." Assistance, your expertise, your institutional knowledge, your signature on certain pending documents. There it was, the real ask. They needed my signature. They needed me to retroactively authorize things I had no business authorizing. They needed me to put my credentials on the line to clean up their mess. "Let me understand," I said slowly. "You want me to sign documents for a company that terminated me, documents that would require me to claim authority I no longer have, documents that would be legally fraudulent." The woman's neutral face flickered, just slightly. "We're not asking you to do anything improper. We simply need me to pretend I was never fired, to paper over the fact that your client created a regulatory disaster by removing the only person authorized to manage it, to commit fraud so he doesn't have to face consequences." Silence. "That's not how we would characterize it," the man said. "That's exactly how OSHA would characterize it, and the state licensing board, and the insurance company, and anyone else who looks at a signature dated after my termination." I straightened up. Tell your client something for me. Tell him that I spent 15 years building a safety program that protected every worker on every site. Tell him that I did my job, did it well, did it invisibly so that people like him never had to think about the dangers right under their feet. And tell him that when he decided I was redundant, he threw away the only protection he had. The woman's jaw tightened. Is that your final answer? That's my only answer. And you can add this. If anyone at Harmon Belk tries to forge my signature or use my credentials without authorization, I will personally file criminal complaints with every relevant agency. I've already documented my termination. I have time-stamped records. I have witnesses. The man's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening legal action? I'm promising legal defense. There's a difference. Your client attacked first. I'm just making sure he can't attack again. They exchanged a glance, the kind that said this wasn't going the way they'd planned. We'll be in touch, the woman said. Don't bother. Unless you have an offer that doesn't involve me committing fraud, we have nothing to discuss. I closed the door, watched through the window as they walked back to their black SUV. The man pulled out his phone immediately, probably calling Kevin, probably delivering the bad news. I smiled, not because I enjoyed their discomfort, because I knew what came next. They'd offered money. It hadn't worked. Now they'd try something else. Pressure, threats. Maybe they'd go public with their blame campaign. Maybe they'd try to drag me through the press. Let them. I had documentation. I had the truth. And most importantly, I had time. Kevin didn't. Every day the site sat idle was another $500,000 down the drain. Every day without insurance was another step toward project collapse. Every day without a qualified safety officer was another day closer to the point of no return. He was bleeding, and I was the tourniquet he'd thrown away. All I had to do was wait. The bleeding was going to do the rest. The first vendor pulled out on Wednesday. Industrial Equipment Solutions, the company supplying scaffolding and temporary structures, sent a formal notice to Harmon Belk's procurement department. Due to unresolved compliance issues and the current site suspension, we are exercising our right to terminate our supply agreement effective immediately. All equipment currently on site must be removed within 72 hours. I heard about it from Manny. He'd been called in to help with the removal. It's a ghost town out here, he said. They're pulling everything. The scaffolding, the temp walls, the safety barriers. By Friday, this place is going to be a skeleton. What about the workers? Sent home, all of them. Kevin made a big speech about a temporary pause for strategic realignment. Nobody believes him. What about you? Manny was quiet for a moment. I'm looking at other jobs. We all are. Nobody wants to be the last one standing when this thing collapses. I thanked him for the update, hung up, and felt something I hadn't expected. Sadness, not for Kevin, not for the Harmon family, for the workers. The men and women who'd shown up every day, done their jobs, trusted that someone was watching out for them. They hadn't done anything wrong. They were collateral damage in Kevin's war against competence. I made some calls that afternoon, reached out to contacts at other firms, safety directors I'd known for years, people who respected my work. I've got good people looking for jobs, I told them, skilled workers, reliable. If you've got openings, I can vouch for them. One by one, they said yes, because that's how this industry works. The good people know each other. The good people help each other. Kevin would never understand that. He saw workers as line items, interchangeable units. He didn't understand that relationships were the real infrastructure of construction, the connections that held everything together, even when the paperwork fell apart. By Friday, I'd helped place 11 workers at other sites. Manny got a job running crane for a hospital project downtown. Better pay, better hours. He called to thank me. You didn't have to do that, he said. I know. After everything they're saying about you, what are they saying? That you sabotaged the permits, that you left them exposed on purpose, that this is all some kind of revenge. I laughed, soft, tired. Is that what you believe? Hell no. I watched you work for 15 years. You didn't sabotage anything. You just stopped holding everything together. That's not the same thing. Tell that to Kevin. Kevin doesn't listen. That's his whole problem. We said goodbye. I put down the phone and looked out the window. The sun was setting, orange and purple smeared across the sky. Beautiful, calm, completely indifferent to the chaos happening across town. Somewhere the Riverside Tower site sat empty, permits frozen, insurance lapsing, contracts unraveling, a $140 million monument to the cost of arrogance. And Kevin Harmon Jr., somewhere in his corner office, probably still believed he could fix this, still believed it was all just a misunderstanding, still believed that money and connections could paper over any problem. He was about to learn otherwise, because the next domino was about to fall, and this one was going to make noise. Saturday morning, my doorbell rang at 8 a.m. I opened it, expecting more lawyers. Instead, I found Harold Harmon Sr., the founder, Kevin's father. He looked smaller than I remembered, older. The permanent tan couldn't hide the circles under his eyes. "Margaret," he said. No hello, no preamble. "Mr. Harmon, can I come in?" I stepped aside, let him pass. He walked into my living room, looked around at my modest furniture, my bookshelves, my view of the small backyard with the bird feeder that still defeated squirrels. "Nice place," he said. Not condescending, just an observation. "It's home." He sat down on my couch without being invited. I took the chair across from him. "I assume you know why I'm here," he said. "I assume your lawyers told you their visit didn't go well. They told me you refused to help. They told you I refused to commit fraud." His jaw tightened, just slightly. "Margaret, I have known you for 15 years. You're not a vindictive person. So help me understand. Why won't you help us fix this?" I looked at him. This man who'd given me my first break, who'd trusted me with the safety of his entire operation, who'd signed off on every expansion of my authority, and who'd then stepped aside and let his son tear it all apart. "Mr. Harmon," I said, "I didn't break anything. Your son did. He fired me without documentation. He removed me without transition. He assumed that safety was just a set of keys he could take away. He made a mistake. He made several. So help us fix the mistakes." "I can't. Legally, ethically, professionally, I can't. Any document I sign now would be backdated. Any authority I claim would be fraudulent. The only way to fix this is to find a qualified replacement and go through the proper channels. That takes time." "We don't have time." "I know. That's the consequence of what Kevin did." "Not me. Kevin." Harold leaned forward. "Margaret, I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. I'm asking you to consult, advise, help us find a path forward. You want me to fix your son's mess without any of the authority or compensation I had when I was actually doing this job. We can discuss compensation. The lawyers already tried that. I'm not interested in money. Then what are you interested in?" I thought about it. What did I want? Not revenge. Revenge was petty. Revenge was for people who didn't have better things to do. Not money. I'd been comfortable before. I'd be comfortable again. Not vindication. The facts were already providing that. What I wanted was something simpler, something harder. "I want acknowledgement," I said. "I want Kevin to stand in front of the same people he fired me in front of and admit that he made a mistake, that I was essential, that my work mattered, that he destroyed something he didn't understand." Harold's face went carefully blank. "You want my son to apologize publicly. I want him to tell the truth publicly. There's a difference." "Margaret, I spent 15 years protecting people, not just workers. Your family, your reputation, your company, and in return I got called dead weight and humiliated in front of my colleagues. So yes, I want the truth. I want the people who watched me get fired to understand what actually happened. I want them to know that I didn't fail. Kevin did." Harold was silent for a long time. "That's a hard thing you're asking. It's an honest thing. The hardest things usually are." He stood up, walked to the window, looked out at my bird feeder for a while. "I built this company from nothing," he said quietly. 40 years ago, I was laying concrete myself, hauling materials in a pickup truck. Now we're a $140 million operation. And I gave it to Kevin because I thought he was ready. He wasn't. No, he wasn't." He turned back to me. "I'll talk to him. No promises, but I'll talk to him. That's all I'm asking." He nodded, walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "For what it's worth," he said, "I'm sorry. I should have listened more, should have been more involved, should have realized what you were actually doing all those years. Thank you. It doesn't fix anything." "No, but it helps." He left. I closed the door behind him, and for the first time in weeks I felt something other than cold patience. I felt hope. Small, fragile, but real. Maybe this wouldn't end in total destruction. Maybe there was still a way forward. Maybe. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Ms. Chen, this is Tyler Harmon. My cousin Kevin asked me to reach out. He wants you to know that the company will be filing a civil lawsuit against you for tortious interference and breach of fiduciary duty. You'll be hearing from our attorneys. Have a nice day." I read it twice, then 3 times. Then I put the phone down and laughed. Long, hard, until tears ran down my face. Because of course Kevin couldn't just listen, couldn't just do the right thing. He had to double down. He had to attack. He had to make this personal. Hope evaporated. Something colder took its place. Fine. He wanted a war. I'd spent 15 years preparing for disasters. I could prepare for one more. The lawsuit arrived on Monday. 27 pages of legal threats wrapped in expensive paper. Tortious interference. Breach of fiduciary duty. Negligent supervision. Intentional sabotage of company operations. Every paragraph was a lie, but they were well-written lies. Lies that would require money and time and energy to refute. Lies designed to bury me under legal costs, to punish me for refusing to help. I called my attorney, Linda Park. She'd handled my will and my house closing. Small-town lawyer, good person, completely out of her depth with something like this. "Margaret," she said after reading the complaint, "you need someone who specializes in employment litigation. This is beyond what I can handle. Recommendations? I know a few people, but they're expensive." "How expensive?" she told me. The number had 5 figures before the decimal point. "That's the retainer," she said. "Total costs could be much higher." I hung up and sat in my kitchen for a long time, thinking the Harmons had infinite resources. I had a retirement account and some savings. They could drown me in paper, bury me in discovery requests, drag this out for years. Even if I won, I'd lose. That was the play. That was Kevin's revenge. If he couldn't force me to help, he'd destroy me financially for refusing. I was still sitting there when my phone rang. Unknown number, I almost didn't answer. "Ms. Chen?" Woman's voice, unfamiliar, professional. "Who's asking?" "My name is Victoria Reyes. I'm an attorney with Morrison & Sterling. We specialize in employment law and whistleblower protection. I understand you've received some concerning legal documents." "How did you know that?" "Word travels fast in the legal community, especially when a company like Harmon Belk files something this aggressive. Ms. Chen, I'd like to offer my services pro bono." I blinked. "Pro bono? Free of charge. We see cases like this as important precedents. Companies can't be allowed to use legal action to punish employees who refuse to commit fraud. If they can do it to you, they can do it to anyone." "Why me?" "Because your case is clean. You did everything right. You were terminated without cause, without documentation, without proper offboarding. Everything that happened afterward was their mistake, not yours. This is a textbook example of wrongful termination and retaliatory litigation. We want to take it on." I was quiet for a moment. "What's the catch?" "No catch. We win, we establish an important precedent and get some publicity. We lose. We've still made it clear that this kind of behavior has consequences. Either way, you're protected." I thought about Kevin, about his lawsuit, about his certainty that money could solve any problem, about his complete inability to understand that some things couldn't be bought. "Miss Reyes," I said, "when can we meet?" We met the next day. Victoria Reyes was exactly what I'd hoped for. Sharp, focused, the kind of lawyer who made other lawyers nervous. She reviewed everything: my employment records, my termination circumstances, the permit documentation, the OSHA stop work order, every text, every email, every time-stamped record I'd kept. "This is remarkable," she said. "You documented everything. Habit. 15 years of safety work teaches you that the only thing that matters is what you can prove. Well, you can prove plenty. This lawsuit is going to collapse under its own weight. But before that happens, I want to file a countersuit." "For what?" "Wrongful termination, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and breach of contract, specifically the severance provisions they never honored because they never processed your termination properly." "Is that enough?" Victoria smiled. Wolf's smile. "It's enough to make them very, very uncomfortable. And here's the beautiful part. Because they filed first, we get to conduct discovery. We get to subpoena documents, internal emails, meeting notes, every conversation Kevin had about eliminating your position. You think there's something damaging in there? I think men like Kevin always leave a trail. They're not smart enough to hide it. They're too arrogant to believe they'll ever have to." She was right. The discovery process started 3 weeks later, and what we found was worse than I'd imagined. Emails from Kevin to Tyler, sent the day before my termination. "Tomorrow we dump the safety lady. Don't worry about paperwork. We'll sort it out later. This is about making a statement. Making a statement. That's what my career was to him. A statement. A public execution designed to show everyone who was in charge." More emails. Kevin to his father. "Dad, the safety budget is bloated. We don't need a full-time director. I'm going to streamline." His father's response. "Kevin, Margaret has been essential to our compliance record. Please consult with legal before making any personnel changes." Kevin's reply. Already done. She's gone. Moving forward, not backward. Trust me. Trust me. 2 words that had cost his family millions. The depositions were scheduled for June. Kevin, Tyler, Harold, the HR director who'd never processed my paperwork, the project manager who'd watched me get fired and said nothing. One by one, they'd have to sit in a room, under oath, and explain exactly what they'd done and why. Victoria called me the night before Kevin's deposition. Are you ready? She asked. For what? To watch a man realize he's destroyed himself. I looked out my window. The sun was setting again. Another beautiful evening, another day closer to resolution. Yes, I said, I've been ready for a long time. The deposition room was beige, aggressively, oppressively beige, like someone had designed it to drain the life out of everyone who entered, perfect for what was about to happen. Kevin arrived in a suit that probably cost more than my car, hair still gelled, smile still white, but something was different. The confidence was thinner, the eyes were tired. He looked like a man who'd been sleeping badly. Good. Victoria started gentle, established his role, his responsibilities, his decision-making authority. Then she started cutting. Mr. Harmon, on April 14th, you terminated Margaret Chen's employment, is that correct? I streamlined her position, yes. You announced this termination publicly, in front of approximately 40 workers, is that correct? I made a leadership announcement. It was part of our new transparency initiative. Did you consult with Human Resources before making this announcement? Kevin shifted. I informed them before or after. After. So you made the decision unilaterally. I'm the COO. That's my job. Did you consult with legal before terminating the company's safety director? I didn't think I needed to. Did you review Ms. Chen's employment contract before terminating her? Not personally. Did anyone review it? Silence. Mr. Harmon? I don't know. Victoria pulled out a document. This is Ms. Chen's employment contract, Section 7, Paragraph 3. It specifies that the safety director position includes regulatory authority over all site permits, certifications, and compliance documentation. It also specifies that any termination must include a 30-day transition period to transfer said authority. Were you aware of this clause? No. Did anyone at Harmon Belk review this clause before you terminated Ms. Chen? I don't know. Mr. Harmon, this clause has been in every safety director contract since 2008. It was negotiated specifically to prevent the kind of regulatory chaos your company is now experiencing. And you're telling me you didn't know it existed? Kevin's lawyer leaned in. Objection. Counsel is testifying. Withdrawn. Let me rephrase. Mr. Harmon, what due diligence did you conduct before eliminating the position of safety director? Kevin's jaw tightened. I assessed the operational needs of the company, and based on that assessment, you concluded that a certified safety director was unnecessary? I concluded that the role could be consolidated with other functions. What functions? Project management, site supervision. Did the project managers or site supervisors have safety certifications? That wasn't the immediate concern. What was the immediate concern? Efficiency, cost reduction, modernization. Mr. Harmon, since Ms. Chen's termination, Harmon Belk has received a stop work order from OSHA, lost insurance coverage, seen 7 vendors terminate their contracts, and faced estimated losses of over $12 million. Was this the efficiency you were aiming for? Kevin's face flushed. That's not fair. Those consequences were not foreseeable. Really? Because your father's email from April 12th specifically warned you to consult with legal before making personnel changes. Did you consult with legal? Did you? No. Your father's email mentioned that Ms. Chen was essential to your compliance record. Did you consider that? I thought he was being cautious. He was right, wasn't he? Kevin didn't answer. Victoria let the silence stretch. Then she pulled out another document. This is an email you sent to your cousin Tyler on April 13th, the day before Ms. Chen's termination. I'll read it aloud. Tomorrow we dump the safety lady. Don't worry about paperwork. We'll sort it out later. This is about making a statement. Mr. Harmon, what statement were you trying to make? Kevin's lawyer interrupted. We'd like to take a break. We're not done. My client needs a moment. Victoria smiled. That wolf's smile. Of course. Take all the time you need. We have plenty more questions. About the forged transfer attempt. About the insurance fraud investigation. About the workers who lost their jobs because of your statement. Kevin stood up, face pale, hands shaking. This is a witch hunt, he said. No, Victoria said. This is a deposition. The witch hunt is what you did to my client, and we're just getting started. The break lasted 30 minutes. When Kevin came back, he looked smaller, older, like something had been hollowed out of him. Victoria continued, question after question, document after document. Every mistake Kevin had made, laid out in careful, methodical detail. By the end, his lawyer had objected so many times his voice was hoarse, but the record was made, the truth was captured, and Kevin finally understood what he'd done. Not because I'd told him, not because his father had warned him, because he'd had to sit in that beige room, under oath, and watch his own words come back to destroy him. That night I opened a bottle of wine, the good stuff, the one I'd been saving for something special, and I toasted the empty room. 2 statements, I said. May they always find their audience. The settlement offer came 2 weeks later, $15 million. Personal apology from Kevin, public acknowledgement of wrongful termination, full restoration of my professional reputation. Victoria called me with the news. They're scared, she said. The depositions were devastating. Their insurance company is threatening to sue them. Their bondsman is pulling out. The project is dead. They want this to go away. I listened to the numbers, the terms, the conditions. $15 million, more money than I'd ever seen, more than I'd ever need. What do you think? Victoria asked. I think Kevin still doesn't understand. What do you mean? The money isn't the point. It was never about money. It was about respect. It was about acknowledgement. It was about the 40 people who watched me get humiliated and now think I was the problem. The public acknowledgement is part of the settlement. A statement drafted by lawyers, sanitized, careful. That's not what I asked for. Victoria was quiet. What do you want instead? I thought about it. What did I actually want? Not the money, though the money would help. Not the legal victory, though the victory mattered. Something simpler. Something harder. I want Kevin to stand in front of those 40 workers, I said, the same ones who watched him fire me. I want him to tell them the truth, not a lawyer's version. The truth, that he was wrong, that I was essential, that he destroyed something he didn't understand because he was too arrogant to listen. That's not standard settlement terms. Then make it non-standard. Victoria laughed. Low. Appreciative. You know, most clients just want the check. I'm not most clients. No, you're not. She went back to the negotiating table. 48 hours of back and forth, threats and counter-threats. Kevin's lawyer said it was impossible, humiliating, unprecedented. Victoria said we'd take it to trial. All of it. Every email, every deposition, every damning word Kevin had ever written. In the end, Kevin agreed, not because he wanted to, because he had no choice. The public acknowledgement was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon. Same staging area where I'd been fired, same crew that had watched it happen, same platform where Kevin had taken my microphone. I arrived early, stood in the back, watched the workers file in. Some of them recognized me, nodded. A few smiled. Manny wasn't there. He'd already moved on to the hospital project, but others were. People who'd worked with me for years, people who'd trusted me, people who'd been told I was dead weight. Kevin arrived last. No Tesla this time. He came in a plain sedan, walked through the crowd without making eye contact, stepped up onto the platform, held a piece of paper. His hands were shaking. I'm here to make a statement, he said. His voice cracked. About Margaret Chen. 2 months ago, I terminated her employment. I did it publicly. I did it without proper documentation. I did it without understanding what she actually did. He paused, swallowed. Margaret Chen was not dead weight. She was not redundant. She was the foundation of this company's safety record. Every permit, every certification, every protection that kept workers safe, that was her. All of it. Someone in the crowd murmured. I made a mistake, Kevin continued. A serious mistake. I thought I could streamline something I didn't understand. I thought experience was replaceable. I thought safety was just paperwork. I was wrong. He looked up, met my eyes across the crowd. Miss Chen, I'm sorry. Not just for the termination, for the disrespect, for the humiliation, for treating 15 years of essential work like it didn't matter. It mattered. It always mattered. I just couldn't see it. He folded the paper, stepped down, walked away without another word. The crowd dispersed slowly. A few workers came up to me, shook my hand, said they were sorry, said they'd known something was wrong but hadn't spoken up. I told them it was okay. Some things you can only learn by watching them fall apart. That night I sat on my back porch. The settlement money would arrive in a few days. The public record would show what really happened. My reputation was restored. My career was over, at least at Harmon Belk. That was fine. I had other plans. The next morning I got a call from Daniel Chen. No relation. Margaret, he said, I heard about the settlement. Congratulations. Thank you. I also heard you're officially retired now. Something like that. Good, because I have a proposition for you. What kind of proposition? OSHA is looking for consultants, experienced safety professionals who can help train inspectors, develop new protocols, evaluate company compliance programs. It's part-time, good pay, and you'd be doing what you've always done, protecting workers. I looked out at my bird feeder. The squirrel was back, still trying to figure it out. When do I start? 6 months later, I stood in front of a classroom of new OSHA inspectors, 23 of them. Fresh faces, eager eyes, notebooks open, ready to learn. My name is Margaret Chen, I said. I spent 15 years as a safety director for a major construction firm. I know every regulation in the book and about 50 that aren't written down. I know what happens when safety works, and I know what happens when it fails. I pulled up a slide. The Riverside Tower site, before and after. This is a story about a 4,700 square foot parking lot of rubble, I said. 6 months ago, it was a $140 million project. Then someone decided that safety was redundant. The room was silent. I'm going to teach you how to prevent this, how to recognize the signs, how to protect workers from employers who don't understand what they're holding, and most importantly, I'm going to teach you that safety isn't a department. It isn't a budget line. It isn't a set of keys you can take away. I clicked to the next slide. My old hard hat, the scratched, dented, faded one from my garage. Safety is the last hard hat, I said, the one that stands between every worker and every hazard, every shortcut, every arrogant fool who thinks they know better. And when you do your jobs right, no one will ever know you were there. That's what we do. We're invisible until we're essential, and we are always, always essential. I looked at those 23 faces, the future of worker protection, and I smiled. Now, I said, let's get to work. The Harmon Belk Development Company filed for bankruptcy in August. The Riverside Tower project was never completed. The site sat empty for 3 years before being purchased by a competitor who built affordable housing instead. Kevin Harmon Jr. was quietly removed from the family business. Last I heard, he was running a small venture capital firm, still talking about disruption and efficiency. His father retired to Palm Beach. The company's name was sold off. The legacy, 40 years of Harold's work, was reduced to a bankruptcy filing and a cautionary tale. But that's not how this story ends. It ends with 23 new inspectors who understand what safety really means. It ends with the workers from Riverside Tower who found new jobs, better jobs, safer jobs. It ends with a woman named Margaret Chen who spent 15 years being invisible and essential, and who finally got to show the world what happens when you fire the immune system. It ends with the truth. And the truth is simple. You can't streamline safety. You can't disrupt experience. You can't fire the person who holds everything together and expect everything to stay together. Some things look like dead weight because you don't understand what they're carrying. The last hard hat, the one no one notices until it's gone. I was that hard hat, and now I'm teaching others to be the same. Invisible, essential, irreplaceable. That's the real legacy. Not revenge, not destruction, protection. The quiet, unglamorous, indispensable work of keeping people safe. Kevin never understood that. Most people don't, but the 23 faces in my classroom do, and they'll teach 23 more, and those will teach 23 more, until every workplace has someone who understands what I understood. That safety isn't a cost, it's a gift. The gift of workers going home to their families, the gift of projects completed without tragedy, the gift of doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. That's my story. Not a story of revenge, a story of consequence. What happens when you throw away something you don't understand? What happens when you let arrogance override expertise? What happens when you learn, too late, that the person you dismissed was the only one keeping you safe? Kevin learned. The hard way. I hope you never have to. But if you do, remember this. The last hard hat is always watching, even when you can't see it. Even when you've forgotten it exists, especially then, because that's what we do. We protect, we prevent, we persist, and we never ever stop, not even when they fire us, not even when they blame us, not even when they try to bury us under lawsuits and lies. We just keep going, keep protecting, keep being the invisible shield between workers and harm. That's the job, that's the calling, that's the legacy, and no amount of streamlining will ever change that. I finished my wine, looked at the stars, and smiled, because tomorrow I had another class to teach, another generation to train, another chance to make sure no one else went through what the workers at Riverside Tower went through. That's not revenge, that's purpose, And purpose, unlike Kevin Harmon Jr., never goes out of style. Thanks for sticking with this one, you beautiful chaos enthusiasts. If you made it this far without subscribing, I'm legally required to assume you're a corporate efficiency consultant looking for tips. Hit that button, like the video, share it with someone who's ever been called legacy staff by someone who couldn't find the printer. And remember, the next time some MBA tries to tell you that experience is dead weight, show them this story. Show them what happens when you fire the hard hat, and then watch them sweat. Until next time, stay essential, stay invisible, and never ever let them see the bear trap coming.